morning. It was very bright. The sun was warm and strong. It's one of those days that make you feel like you could do anything. So I was fixing a great Maryland breakfast. Crab cakes and shrimp and cream meat with gravy. Allegra, made biscuits. I'm not a biscuit-making gal, but I made biscuits, and this was going to be my breakfast. I had these Carolina shrimp. They're the gray shrimp with the heads on it. They're usually sweeter than the other shrimp. And I peeled the shrimp, yanked the heads off, and shoved it down the garbage disposal, and I started hearing things, like a waterfall, and then a louder noise. Not only had the garbage disposal backed up, it took the ceiling out with it in the basement. And all I could do was panic, because that's all I was conditioned to do up until that point. When something went wrong in the house, I always turned to Tony, who was my husband, and he would handle it. But there was no Tony to turn to. But I could get him on the phone. So I called him on the phone and asked him what to do. And he said, oh, well, you got to get down to the basement, get to the main drain, you got to snake it, aerate, get a balance of oxygen. Yeah. You know, the Rooter. So I got to the Yellow Pages and called up Rooter. And Rooter sobered me up pretty quickly with their pricing. $75 to ring the doorbell, and then $45 for every 15 minutes that they were there touching things, trying to figure out the problem. Well, I already knew what was in my bank account, and I knew I couldn't deal with that. This needed to be dealt with right away, and I had to put that fear behind me and the lack of knowledge and try and figure out what to do. So the logic started to come to me. I went down in the basement with great trepidation, sloshed through the mess, and figured out that the garbage disposal drain led over to the main drain. Well, I've been looking around on the floor for the main drain. Isn't that where drains are? Well, the drain wasn't in the floor. It was on what's known as a standpipe, so it was about eye level. So I'm looking at this drain and preparing to snake it. And I said, well, I guess I'll have to pull this black hose that's fitting in it out. Now, the black hose was the takeout hose, the drain, coming from the brand new dishwasher that we had put in about a year earlier, but we stopped using it for the same reason that we stopped using the garbage disposal. Every time you used it, it would back up. And since our 2 human dishwashers were still living at home, we didn't feel a need to use it, so we just didn't. So I had to yank this hose out, and when I pulled it out, I noticed at the end of it there was a lot of sediment built up on it. And the brain started kicking into gear. So wait, maybe it's choking the drain. Well, it was a Y-shaped drain. And the way that the hoses came into it was this way. From one end, it was the drain for the sink, and from the other end was the drain that was, the garbage disposal hose was hooked up to. And where they met was at the neck of the main drain. The hose was too long. It was choking the drain. So nothing could get past it, and that's why everything backed up. Well, I'm pulling on this thing, and this information, by the way, is just evolving. I didn't just suddenly put my hand on it and suddenly I was brilliant. It evolved. So I pulled it out, and so what did I cut off a couple of inches? So I cut a hacksaw and cut it off. All of this very tentative and gingerly, not knowing if any of this was going to work. Put it back in place. I put a little clamp there so it wouldn't slide back. I went upstairs. Turned on the water, flipped on the garbage disposal switch. Free flow. Well, do we have heat? You ever see construction workers? The way they walk? They do like this. You know what that's all about? That's about, well, I know things you know. That's what happened to me automatically. Oh, well. I felt so smart. I felt so empowered by successfully fixing that thing. So when I realized it was working, I said, oh, does that mean the dishwasher will work too? Remember now, I'm now a single girl, and what am I doing? I'm using paper plates. So all the dishes that were in the cabinet had been collecting dust. So I said, well, why don't we load up the dishwasher and see what happens? So I loaded up the dishwasher, and once again, crossed my fingers, no backup. Turned on the garbage disposal, ran the water, no backup. It's like, okay. So